What is going on, everybody? Coming to you about 2 hours earlier than usual on Tuesday, but hey, it is what it is. Everybody's putting out content today talking about the Big 53, and that's why we're here too. Raj literally has been doing it all day. This is my first shot at it and my only shot at it. Before we talk about the rosters, I just want to see how Raj is doing.
Doing good. I'm a happy guy. Season's here. Been working a lot. Moving in a couple weeks. Nothing too crazy, but moving to a new place. Still in the Bay, close to where I'm at, but a little cheaper place actually. A nicer place that's cheaper. It doesn't happen.
That doesn't happen ever.
It doesn't ever happen. And I was like, holy crap! When I saw, I was like, is there demons in there? Is it possessed? Is there cockroaches? But I was like, it's too good to be true. But it is not too good to be true. I'm very happy we'll be moving to a nice place soon. Nicer place.
I'm still gonna stay in the same house, not going anywhere. But man, this is real, man. It's happening. The season is here now. Once you get the 53 dropped, it's pretty much put up or shut up time. I have a lot of thoughts besides the schedule that I want to hit with you soon. But before we do that, did I back out of my own stream?
I think we're good.
Oh, okay. What the hell did I do here?
Still we live, baby. This is live
Okay.
TV, ladies and gentlemen.
All right. Anyways, so there are some things I want to talk about after the 53, but let's start it here. I'm going to see if I can put this on screen, or if it's better that I just read it off to the side here. Let's go. I want to show this, but it's not going to show because it's considered background. All right, you know what? Let's just talk about it. Okay, so quarterback is not a big surprise. Brock Purdy, Sam Darnold, Brandon Allen. So I mean, to me, when I think about it, Raj, I just think that I hope the starting quarterback doesn't get hurt this year because, yeah, I'm not super confident about the guys behind him. How do you feel about the quarterback group? Is it pretty much par for the course?
Yeah, I mean, we know what happened. All that last week was crazy. It was a wild ride. It is what it is. I mean, these are Kyle's quarterbacks. I'm super confident in Brock Purdy. I think he's going to be the guy. He's confident. He's only going to get better. They got to keep him healthy. That's the big key. Because if he does get injured or something, or aliens abduct him or something, we might be a little worried. I think Sam Darnold could win games in the regular season. I mean, he is who he is. He's not going to change anything. I mean, he's Sam Darnold. But I feel like Kyle thinks that he could come in as a backup quarterback, win a few games if he has to, just a couple weeks to string the team along. My concern for Sam Darnold is, can he win games in the playoffs? I don't know. If he has to play in the playoffs, then I don't know if we're going to be able to make a deep run. Now, Brandon Allen, that's the guy that you just hope it doesn't get to it. You just hope that you don't have the same luck as you did last year. I mean, but the thing is with the Niners, they've had this happen many times where they've went through three quarterbacks. C.J. Beathard, Jimmy Garoppolo, Nick Mullins, they've done it. It's not the first time. Then last year, Trey Lance, Jimmy Garoppolo, Brock Purdy, and now this year you have Brock Purdy, and let's hope it doesn't have to get to that point. I do say this, looking at the final rosters, and I said this the other day after the trade. I feel like our quarterback room this year is worse than it was last year. Although Sam Darnold and Jimmy might be pretty close, it's the Trey Lance, Brandon Allen, this difference, or Brock Purdy, Brandon Allen, because Brock Purdy and Brandon Allen last year were QB3s. But again, Kyle feels that Brandon Allen can run this offense. I don't think he can, and I think we'd be in a mess if he has to. But nobody knew that Brock Purdy had what he had. So at the end of the day, man, you just got to pray that Brock stays healthy and he can do what he has to do. But I'm excited. I think we have a good roster. I think it's still a Super Bowl roster. I mean, nothing really changed. There's a few guys that left, and then your backup quarterback is different this year. That's really what it came down to, because early in the offseason, they already moved on from Trey. They said he was going to be our backup. Maybe he can compete to be backup. So he wasn't ever going to start. It was always Brock Purdy. And we all kind of felt that Brock Purdy last year, off that magical run, was like, wow, this team's got their guy. But he has to stay healthy.
I feel more confident in the starting quarterback this year, and that, it's not really a knock at Trey, just experience level, based off of last year, and just the fact that he's just, I don't know, he's like a calming force back there. He seems to have a very, very firm grasp on this roster as far as leadership. And he doesn't seem like the moment's ever too big for him. He doesn't resort back to bad habits. He's pretty much what you see is what you get. You look at Brock from a surface level and you're not impressed by pretty much anything about him, but then you watch him play and it's like, you get it. You understand.
Yeah.
And let's hope that continues this year. I mean, he looked pretty impressive in the preseason. But that's the preseason. We're talking regular season. We're going to Pittsburgh. It's going to be a crazy place. And let's see if we can take the magic that was Brock Purdy in the 2022 season and bring it into the 2023-24 season. So to me, the quarterback is what it is. The room. I honestly, if he goes down and we misses a couple games, that's one thing. But if it's a large stretch,
yeah,
I think the Niners are pretty much dead in the water. So hopefully that doesn't happen. They need to protect him very, very well and, get that running game going. We have all these great running backs that we're about to talk about. So let's get the running game going. Let's go to halfbacks. So we have Christian McCaffrey, of course. We have Elijah Mitchell, Ty Davis Price, and JP Mason, and then fullback Kyle Juszczyk. No real surprise there. We got the news the other day that Elijah Mitchell looks like he's good to go for the regular season. To me, I don't get really excited too much because he gets hurt constantly. So, I mean, we have a really impressive running back room where each guy kind of brings its own thing. Christian McCaffrey kind of being the do-it-all back. Mr. He can do it all. He can catch, he can run, he can do everything. And then, you got TDP, who's a little bit of a bigger back, kind of a bruiser. Elijah Mitchell is a really, he's just, he's smooth. You know what I mean? He's really smooth. He's really talented. Then JP Mason, he's kind of a hammer guy. But he has to figure out a way to hold on to the ball. Cause in the preseason, he had some problems. And then one way to get yourself kicked off of a Kyle Shanahan team is if you continue to turn the ball over. So any thoughts on the running backs?
Yeah, it was pretty much no surprises there. I think that 99.9% probably called that group. I mean, no surprise. Like I said, I thought maybe you can trade Mitchell down the line if you need some value. He does have injury risk with him. I love Elijah Mitchell, but he is an injury risk. So maybe they can look at offers down the line. But I mean, if he's healthy, I mean, he's, like you say, he's smooth running back. I love the backups. I love Jordan Mason. I think Ty Davis Price really stepped up this offseason. And this training camp, he had a strong camp. So, I was worried last year when, with the Trey Sermon situation and they drafted TDP and he wasn't looking good. And I was like, is he going to be the next Trey Sermon? But, TDP really stepped up this offseason. I hope he continues to grow. He still needs to improve, just like Jordan Mason. Like you said, Jordan Mason, ball security. TDP, he needs to work on his zone blitz pickups, his pass protection, because that's another way for Kyle Shanahan to throw you in the doghouse. If you're not blocking and you're not rocking. If you're not blocking, you're not rocking.
That's right.
So, I mean, and then the biggest thing with the running backs, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and dwell on the running back stuff because it's pretty simple, but we get a whole full year of Christian McCaffrey. I got a fantasy draft coming up. He might be the number one pick. I have the number one pick. I don't know. It's either going to be CMC or JJ, but CMC is going to go absolutely bananas, bonkers in this offense. I can't wait.
Who's JJ in your fantasy?
Justin Jefferson.
Okay. I was like, Juwan Jennings? I don't think so.
Justin Jefferson, he's the best receiver in the league right now.
He is, but he is the best receiver in the league. But I think Brandon Ayuk, if he gets some if he gets some balls thrown his way this year, he might challenge him in that area. But that's neither here or there. Let's go to wide receiver.
Speaking of wide receiver.
Speaking of wide receiver.
Yeah.
Wait, were you hinting me at something, or are you just?
Yeah, that was a good. Segue.
I'm slow.
That was the segue. Wide receiver, Brandon Ayuk. Of course, he made the roster cut, right?
Of course, Aaron's slow. Okay, just
3-man roster. We're talking about the roster. We're at the receiver spot now, and BA contract season. Debo, he's skinny Debo, and now.
Wow, I see what you mean now. I saw a video of him in like a hallway.
I told you.
He's dinky looking, man.
It's like he went
He's
from
like Debo light.
it's like he looks like me out there compared to maybe last year he made it look like Javon Kinlaw, you know.
Von Kinlaw, that body. That dude's just gifted from the gods. So Brandon Ayuk, Debo Samuel, Juwan Jennings, all guys we already knew. Ronnie Bell made the team, 7th-round receiver. Had a great preseason, had a great camp. I'm so happy for that. Ray McLeod and Danny Gray. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 receivers. Not a real shock with any of those guys. It's interesting that Danny Gray is going to start on the 53. I thought maybe he would be, you know, on the pup list or something with all his injuries. I don't know exactly where he is physically wise. The Ronnie Bell one is really cool, man, because like he earned that spot.
Yeah.
He had an incredible preseason. I want to see what he looks like in games when the onus is on all the other big stars, and then you got this like 7th-round guy that who knows, maybe if he keeps growing as a player, he can end up being a guy that would allow the Niners to move on from another player if they don't want to pay for him. So
Yeah.
that's kind of what I'm looking for with him. Thoughts on the wide receiver room?
Yeah, obviously we know Debo and BA going to go crazy. BA's contract year. Juwan Jennings in the contract year too. So, like you said, with Ronnie Bell, shout out to Ronnie. He's right now 4th receiver. He'll probably play punt returner, kick returner until Ray comes back. He's got a broken wrist, but he looks like he's trending back a little faster than we thought. Yesterday on his story, he was out there. Took a video of him. He didn't have his cast on, which is big news, kind of in my eyes. Kyle Shanahan says he might be able to play week 1. He said this last week, so he says you never know, but they could place Ray on short-term IR. So he made the roster, but if they were to cut him, they wouldn't have been able to do the whole IR swap. So I think they had to keep Ray and Danny Gray because he's also got a shoulder injury. If any of those two guys are at the point where they may not be able to play for a few weeks, the Niners can put them on short-term IR, and then they can bring up another receiver. So they could bring up Tay Martin or Isaiah Winstead, some of these younger guys, Willie Snead most likely, Chris Conley. Those guys didn't make it. They'll probably play on the practice squad, or they could be called up depending on how the injured reserve situation goes. Going back to Ronnie Bell, he's definitely going to probably take Juwan Jennings' role next year if he leaves. Because, again, he's a free agent next year, contract season. So if he leaves, you got a cheaper option of Ronnie Bell who could probably do what Juwan Jennings does and replicate it. So that's a very easy segue for them for next year in the future. But, yeah, wide receivers, I'm very happy with this group. I'm a little disappointed in Danny Gray. He 2 years now, and he hasn't really panned out. Injuries now, kind of the writing seems like it's on the wall that he may not pan out with this team, but I'm going to hold out fate and hopefully it does. But yeah, Ronnie Bell doesn't, or Danny Gray doesn't look like he's going to make too much noise on this roster anytime soon. So we'll see.
I want to say what's up to the chat real quick. We got someone I've never seen before, Fired Up 49ers. He said, man, what a day for 49er fans. Hell yeah, man. This is it. The writing's on the wall, man. We got a roster pretty much set. Madden's probably going to do their roster updates, so you know it's happening when Madden's roster updates are coming, and people can't wait to start their franchise. Kurt Sampson, how's it going? I see you in here quite often. 49er Jeff, thanks for coming through. I love the freaking profile pic.
I know, that's cool.
Pockets, the
Bruh.
cheesecake. Probably one of the best names ever.
That is a good. He was in the chat in my room. I love his name. Pockets Cheesecake.
We got the Shaw Show in here. Thank you for coming through. You're always supporting the channel, and I appreciate that. I see you on my, I see you on the Instagram too once in a while, liking my stuff. So I appreciate that. We got Laura Cat in here. Thank you, Laura, as usual. 49er minded. What's going on, my brother? Thanks for coming through at a little bit earlier time than we usually do it. But you know, Raj has a busy day today, and he's very popular either with his own stuff and with other people's channels. So
I love my boy Bash, though. I love my boy Bash. You know, 49er minded.
Hell yeah.
He had to call me a couple times this week. He needed like a therapy session. I had to kind of
talk about Trey.
You know, had to get the stress out of his mind.
Yeah, I think me and him need to go to like a panic room or something, or not a panic room, one of those rooms where you go and you just like smash like dishes and stuff with like sledgehammers and stuff. I think we both need to go there. That'll be me during the regular season. That's when I start to lose my mind. But let's see. Let's move over to tight ends. Big surprise. George Kittle made the roster. Woo! Braden Willis. Ross Dwelly and Charlie Warner. Why Charlie Warner? Why not Fumagalli? I know that Latu is probably going to be on IR this year. They're going to stash him, redshirt him. That's what they do. Sometimes I understand it. Sometimes I don't. In this case, I do. He's pretty raw. Had a rough camp from all the reports, including yourself and everybody else that was there. Any talk of Braden Willis? What's your opinion of him? I mean, I didn't really hear about him much in the preseason at all.
Oh, yeah.
I go ahead.
I mean, the 49ers always keep 4 tight ends with Kyle Shanahan. I wasn't surprised. These were the 4 that I chose just because Cameron Latu, he got hurt. He's going to redshirt, like you said. I thought Cameron Latu was kind of at a position where he might have got cut anyways if he didn't have that game-winning touchdown a couple weeks ago. I think he would have got cut, but I think luckily for the 49ers, he got this injury. I mean, you never want to wish an injury, but I think for them, it's his best case scenario because now they don't have to cut him because he was not good. They could cut him and say, you have potential, but you still need to work on your hands. You need to figure some things out because he was very raw. He has some abilities sometimes, but he just wasn't really getting it in training camp. Braden Willis actually looked like the better tight end in training camp. So I was surprised he didn't get a lot of opportunities when he was in the preseason game. So I like Braden Willis. I'm glad he made the team because I think he has some good upside. Charlie Warner, the only reason you get him on this roster is because he could block. Again, Kyle Shanahan wants you to block. No block, you ain't rocking. So that's why Charlie Warner's on the team. You remember last year, the reason why Brock Purdy got sacked on that play is because they like to use the tight end to block. Charlie Warner is a good blocking tight end. He probably should have been in on that play. Right. He wasn't. So Fumagalli is a good tight end, and I think a lot of people thought he was going to make this, but he doesn't block like Charlie Warner. You already have a Kittle. You already have a Ross Dwelly, a hands guy. You already have a Braden Willis. Those 3 guys are your pass catchers. You need at least one tight end that can block, and that's Charlie Warner. He's a great blocker. So Kittle does everything. He fucking blocks, talks, catches. He does everything. So
Russell's for WWE. Yeah,
he's the man.
I just thought they would have. Oh, go ahead. Sorry about that.
So overall, I wasn't really too surprised with this tight end unit.
Yeah, I wish there was. I hate to say this, but like the way New England had when they had Gronk and Aaron Hernandez. Was it Hernandez?
Yeah, rest in peace.
Yeah, R.I.P. It was just a like both guys could really catch the ball. I think a lot of us are looking for that guy to play opposite of him, where they have two massive, not massive as in size, but 2 massive tight ends that can move the ball. And it just seems like Kittle's job is never in jeopardy. Not that it should be, but like, I don't know. It'd be nice to have another guy instead of having like Kittle and then a bunch of just dudes. Yeah, just scrubby guys. It's just like, whatever.
Even when the 49ers had Vernon Davis, they had Delaney Walker. You had 2 good tight ends. Like, I think people are spoiled. Not most teams barely have 1 good tight end. The 49ers, I think everybody wants them to have 2 good tight ends because it'll take pressure off Kittle. It's always the argument. Take pressure off Kittle. Some teams barely even have 1 good tight end. So I think we're blessed. Kyle likes to use these tight ends for blocking in his run scheme. So I think that's why we have so many. And then people are like, oh, well, if we're going to carry so many, yeah, we need to have 2 studs on this team. Because I remember like the year when Trey was drafted, everybody was saying, well, go get Kyle Pitts. Go get another star tight end. I mean, you think back at it, like, could they have went and got Kyle Pitts and paired him with George Kittle? How nasty would that have been, right?
That would have been crazy. That would have been unfair. That's kind of the same line of thinking when, now that Trey's not here, that we could have went and drafted Micah Parsons and been opposite of Bosa. Like, coulda, woulda, shoulda, but it didn't happen. But that would have been interesting. That, like, what the hell are you going to do with that pairing? How do you block that pairing? You can't. That's impossible. But let's go to the O-line. I said Twent. Trent Williams. Trent Williams, of course. Aaron Banks, of course. Jake Brendel. Spencer Burford, not Buford, people. Colton McKivitz. John Feliciano. Jalen Moore. Nick Zakelj. Matt Pryor. What happened to Il Manning? I don't understand this. Why do you keep Nick Zakelj? Some people say it's because he's more prototype in his size and that Ilm is small. But any thought on that offensive line other than the starters is just sucky to say
Doo-doo, yeah.
without
If the
either
starters
doo-doo.
go, like you said with Brock Purdy, if the starters go down, we might have some trouble with the offensive line. I think Jalen Moore is. I don't like him at swing tackle. I think Matt Pryor's not bad. He was decent. John Feliciano, he's gonna be like your utility belt, your utility guy. He's gonna be your Swiss Army knife. He's gonna be Dan Brunskill. He could play center guard. Is he gonna be good at it? We'll see. The rest of those guys, I mean, it is what it is. Nick Zakelj, I don't think he should have made the roster. I know everybody got their panties in a bunch over Il Manning. He was undersized, and they already kept 2 tackles. Nick Zakelj can play inside, and Il Manning doesn't play inside. So that's where it happened, is that you had Matt Pryor and Jalen Moore, who've been on this team longer, so they're going to get that seniority, I guess. Unfortunate. Manning is a good prospect. They'll develop him. They'll put him on the practice squad. But you can't have 3 tackles. You need to have some guard depth. And luckily for Nick Zakelj, he's better than all the other. That's how bad the other guys were, that Nick Zakelj was better than them. And this is the thing that nobody's talking about. And I know it's like sounds silly. People are like, he's Brock Purdy's roommate. He's got some pull on that locker room.
Brock Purdy's he's that dude, guys.
He's Brock Purdy's roommate. You think Brock's gonna tell him? He's gonna go up to Kyle and say, "Hey, you make sure Nick Zakelj makes this fucking roster, buddy."
Yeah, yes, sir. Yes, sir. We'll do whatever we want. You will do whatever you want, Mr. Purdy, Mr. BCP.
He put it out. He put the BCB on the table and said, "Listen, Nick Zakelj."
Yeah, that thing sounded like hey, clunk. He said, "Listen, clunk. I'm BCP." Anyways, sorry guys, we went a little R-rated.
Yeah, that
if
was
you can't figure out what BCP is, then you're slow.
That was yeah, I took it too far. I'm sorry, guys.
We went a little. It's okay though, dude. We're men. That's okay.
For the views, Aaron. It's just for the views.
Yeah, it's for the views. Yeah. Okay. Let's talk cornerbacks. Javarius Ward, lock, of course. We have Deommodore Lenoir, played well down the stretch and in the playoffs. Very happy about that. Sam Womack had a good preseason, at least at times. I said something during I think it was in a stream with Breezy, and he's like, "Really? Did he really?" I'm like, "Well, when I was watching him, he goes, well, what about this, this, and this?" And I'm like, "Well, okay." So I gave up on that one, but I think he had a decent preseason. Ambry Thomas, I'm happy for him, but is it fool's gold? We don't know. And then Isaiah Oliver, no Quantrez Knight, which a lot of people were kind of disappointed with. I'm trying to think. And of course, what's his name? Darrell Luter's on the PUP list right now. So I think the 49ers are looking at it like once they get Darrell Luter back, this is going to be hopefully a pretty deep cornerback room. Probably one of the better cornerback rooms you've had since Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch have been here. I mean, they had some pretty good ones, but these guys are all young. Everybody's young and everybody's can grow and get better. So any thoughts on the corners?
I was a little surprised Ambry Thomas made that final roster. Shout out to him. The coaches really were impressed. He worked his butt off. There was a turning point in training camp. I think we talked about it a few weeks ago. He was getting dogged, and then he gets a PBU on George Kittle, and after that, he turned it around, man. He looked good. So I'm happy for Ambry, 3rd round pick, Michigan boy. I'm really happy for Ambry. I hope he can play well in the season. I'm a little worried about the nickel spot. I think everybody is. Isaiah Oliver isn't cutting it right now. I mean, it's preseason, so we'll see. We'll take it with a grain of salt. But they said that they're going to rotate these nickel guys. They're going to put Lenoir. He says, "I'm willing to play everywhere." He's giving you the great mentality speech. So I've
seen that.
Play whatever. But at the same time, I don't like that for him because I want him to focus on one spot, really develop. Because that's what they do with Jimmy Ward when he was early in his career. They played him everywhere.
Yeah.
And he never really was stable until he figured, he deserves to be in safety position. So I kind of don't always like that when they play a guy all over the place because you don't really figure out the full, scheme at always. You always got to be changing your mindset. And the nickel corner spot, man, it's a tough spot because the 49ers play some really good nickel wide receivers this year, slot receivers. Cooper Kupp and Tyler Lockett come right to mind. It's tough, man. So that's a tough position. And Oliver doesn't look like he's going to be able to cover them. And I like Sam Womack, but can Sam Womack stick Cooper Kupp? That's tough, man. It's a tough position to be in. But overall, I like that they have some really solid depth in terms of their youth. I got a lot of young guys, and I think they all have talent, but They just really got to get up to speed and live up to their potential because they all have talent. I think Mooney Ward, he's looking for a big year. He said it a couple months ago that he wants to be all pro, Pro Bowl, whatever. He's going to come in with some intensity. Let me go fix something while you continue on the next.
Yep. We're going to go to safeties. Talanoa Hufanga, Tashawn Gibson, Jair Brown, George Odom. No real question. We got a fire alarm going on in the background. Talanoa Hufanga is a no-doubter. I mean, huge year last year. The thing with Hufanga that everybody has to worry about right now is that knee situation with the whatever they call it, that growth / fluid behind his knee. It can cause an issue with the meniscus. It doesn't sound like the Niners are too worried because they haven't really said much about it. So hopefully there's no issues with Hufanga. Gibson, veteran player. I'm glad that they kept him. I'm glad that he wanted to come back. Jair Brown, awesome. Great job, dude, making the team. I mean, he was going to make the team regardless, but I mean, he might get some playing time this year. I mean, guys get hurt. People go down. So hopefully Jair Brown can step in and be, not fall off too much with the starters. We don't have that much of a gap. Hopefully he can kind of, bridge the gap, so to speak. And then George Odom, another great depth piece, not like super awesome safety guy, but, good depth. You can't have all-stars at every position, but I think the safety position, to me, I'm more comfortable with than any other position in that secondary, which would be corners. So the corners, to me, it's like we're top heavy, and then there's like a ton of question marks. It's hard with slot because slot is such an open area position. You have to cover the outside, you have to cover the inside. Where with boundary corners, if you're a guy who can push guys to the outside, you can be a guy that pushes guys towards the safety. Some guys play like way Richard Sherman used to play. He played the angles at the corner position. You can't really do that in the slot. Slot, you usually have guys that are a little bit smaller and really quick that can cover those inside routes. So that is a little bit of a concern, but I think the safeties for the most part look good. How are you feeling about safety position?
Yeah, other than running back, this was the easiest position to predict. I had no qualms about it. George Odom, he's a special teams guy. That's why they keep him on this team, and he's a Pro Bowl special teamer. I'm happy to see Jair Brown on this roster. I think he'll get some moments here and there through the season. He's not just going to sit around. They're going to play him in special teams. There's going to be some opportunities for him to, take some snaps here and there. And I think he'll continue to grow because you remember when Hufanga was a rookie, they gave him some opportunities here and there, and he made the most of them. Tashawn Gibson, I'm glad he's back. We needed the veteran. He's got a 1-year deal, but I'm sure they'll throw in Jair every once in a while to mix him in with Huff because that's the future. I will miss Jimmy Ward, but I think we have a good safety room overall.
Pockets, I love your comments and your participation, but that would be absolutely the worst move. You think the Trey Lance situation was botched? And I know about the Reddit post that everybody's talking about on Twitter.
Fake news.
Fake freaking dude. Listen, Pockets, if they were to do this, he's your best defensive player. What? When people, and I'm not picking on Pockets. I'm saying when people say like, oh, we could get picks and we can get this and we get that. Anytime that happens, we're living in a like a video game where like we can make those things work and they're all going to be 100% equal to the guy that we just gave up. That never happens in real life. Like when you have a guy like Nick Bosa and you say, oh, we're going to trade him and we'll get 2 players that'll play for the amount that he plays or whatever. Those 2 players are not going to have the same impact that one player is going to have. Or picks, we're going to draft his replacement. So, we'll be good. It doesn't work like that. Picks for, like the whole situation when we let go of DeForest Buckner and we essentially drafted his replacement. Did that work out? Absolutely not. So for me, Bosa's got to sign. The Niners need to do business different with Bosa. They can't go cheap. They have to break the bank and go against their normal contract parameters that they like to use with Parag Marate. But not picking on you, Pockets. I'm just saying, no way, man.
Here's the thing. If Nick Bosa is not on this roster, they don't win a Super Bowl. That's it. Bottom line.
Yeah. Bosa's a generational talent. Bosa's generational. He's the best He's the best edge rusher in the NFL. And a lot of people will say like the guy from the Browns. I always forget his name. It escapes me, but uh, just Bosa does so much for this team, and he affects.
Response to another comment. I think.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, like I said, I wasn't picking on you. David McNiner says the Bosa rumors are clickbait. He's a core player, not tradable. Yeah, you can't trade Nick Bosa.
You think 49ers Twitter had a meltdown the other night? You want to see a meltdown? You want to see a real meltdown? You want to see grown men cry? Trade Nick Bosa.
Listen, the Trey Lance thing is one thing because Trey Lance hasn't put enough on tape to, thank you, Myles Garrett. But Nick Bosa's put a little bit of stuff on tape, just a tiny bit of play. Just a tad. He was only the defensive player of the year last year and had 18 and a half sacks.
Whoa, I heard there was a rumor that also a couple years back, I don't know, maybe you could confirm that he was also defensive rookie of the year a couple years back.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah. So yeah, that would be, like I said, I'm not picking on you, and now I see that was a response. But yeah, that would just,
bro, that would be wild. Can you imagine? The Niners Twitter would implode. I think the app would break.
I love my guy Ted, and he's very much upset at the Niners for what they did to Trey Lance.
I'm sure he is.
I would be as equal of angry or more if they did that to Bosa. You think my guy Ted is mad?
Yeah.
I'll go back to my old ways when I used to freaking tweet players and freaking dog them and stuff like an
man. I feel I haven't done a well check on him. I hope he's good because I was at training camp with him every day, and he was so hyped up for Trey. And when I saw that news, I was like, "Oh fuck!"
I understand, and I know I'm not trying to go on like a diatribe about Trey Lance, but I understand it's a simple reason why they traded him. The simple reason being that they're in a win now mode and they can't have time for him to develop. The problem was that they never should have drafted him in the first place because for the most part, this team since 2019 has been a win now team. So to have a project guy come onto a team where you can't really give him time to get reps, what's the point of drafting him? And that to me he never should have been drafted.
Yeah, I think they wanted to get something they thought to evolve the offense and say, man, maybe we can, because people are catching up. People are trying to copy Kyle, and it wasn't the kind of quarterback he wanted. He wanted Mac Jones, and there's both of those guys. Again, I don't want to get into this too much because I've talked about this a lot, but I feel like
everybody
there was probably some reasons why, and end of the day, yeah, it probably wasn't the wisest decision because he is a green quarterback. But going to the trade, the whole situation, I'm glad Trey asked for one. I think he needed to because remember last week we said this on the show. I said if I'm Trey, I go on that desk, I throw my jersey down, and I say, "Trade me, Kyle. Trade me, please trade me." Because at this point, it's just awkward. You've already been through this situation. It was awkward when you came in. You took over Jimmy, which people respected him, and you're this 20-year-old young man trying to be this franchise quarterback for a Super Bowl team, and then you get hurt, and then you come back, and now I already know you're not the quarterback one. You're in there to compete with Sam Darnold, who you signed, and you said you just wanted to compete. So it must have really been just a lot of pressure on Trey. And like he said, like Brandon Ayuk said, he goes, it was like a weight was lifted off him. He needed a second start somewhere because if he would have stayed on this team, it just would have had that black cloud lingering. It would have been weird. They had to rip the Band-Aid and let it go. It sucks, but it is what it is. And if you were to tell Sam Darnold the same thing, let's say Trey would have beat Sam Darnold out for QB2, right? Cool, everybody's happy. You have your QB2. Sam Darnold isn't going to stick around either. He wants to go get an opportunity. So if you have Trey Lance and Sam Darnold, and you're going to trade one of those guys, you're probably going to get more value out of Trey Lance. Anybody could have had Sam Darnold this offseason.
Right.
So that Sam Darnold knows your offense. He can execute it. You're not going to get much out of him. At least for Trey, there's people that can bank on his potential because he's still young enough. They'll give you a little bit more than they would for Sam Darnold. And that's really what it came down to. Next.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. And it hurt me to see it. Like I was legitimately hurt for the kid. But
I feel bad for him. I talked to his brother the other night. I DM'd him. We were talking, and I said good luck to him. He's always been a standard class act guy. Wish him the best.
Act.
Yeah. 49er PFP.
PFP?
His profile picture on Instagram.
Did he change it?
It's blank. Last time I checked, it was blank. Yeah, it's still blank.
That'll be an interesting situation in Dallas because from the reports, they didn't really give oh yeah, it's still blank.
Blank.
They didn't really give what's his name, Dak Prescott, a heads up that he was coming there, from what I heard. So
he got the gym treatment. So look at this. It's pretty. So his profile on Instagram, it's a blank picture, no profile picture. It says Trey Lance. It doesn't say anything else. It doesn't say Dallas Cowboys quarterback, 49ers quarterback. It says Trey Lance.
Interesting. Is he going to be in the future of the Dallas Cowboys either? Or do they trade him to somewhere else? Maybe they trade him to the Patriots. You know?
He might need a third team to figure it out. But we'll see.
He needs to go somewhere where somebody believes in him and is willing to give him a chance to grow. And
he
that
needs to be starting games right now somewhere.
Yeah, sitting in the back, being a backup or a third stringer to him doesn't help him at all.
Especially up here, because he never had that confidence in him. You know, where Brock Purdy came in, he was swagged out the first day, doing this when he scored touchdowns, injected to my vein.
Right.
Yes.
That's the difference. That's one of the differences that I noticed with him since he's been drafted. He's always been the guy, Trey, that is just, he says the right things. He does the right things. He's a good person. But you've never seen him be a guy who's like aggressively trying to take something from someone like Brock. And this isn't a knock. Maybe it's not his personality, but I think in professional sports, if you're going to be great, you have to have a little bit of an ego and a little bit of self-belief that you're better than the guy that you're playing across from. And
absolutely, Aaron.
Just based on just physical skill and body size. I mean, he's bigger than Brock. He's got a bigger arm than Brock. He's more athletic than Brock. Brock's sneaky athletic though. But what Brock does really well with all these other things against him is the mental part of the game. And also he has massive testicular presence.
BC.
He just is a different kind of cat. All the great ones have it. I'm not saying he's going to be great. Don't take my words and go run with them and say that Aaron said he's going to be the second coming of Joe Montana. Never said that. So, all right, let's go to linebacker. Oh, go ahead.
But Aaron said that's what they're going to do.
Aaron said I was great. He said I was the best thing ever since Montana. That you got to put that in my contract, right? Because Aaron said it. With his weaselly ass freaking YouTube channel. All right. Let's go to linebackers. Probably the best group on the team besides safety and running back. Fred Warner, of course, best linebacker in the NFL off the ball. Only to be only second, or only Dre Greenlaw only second to him, or whatever. You know what I'm trying to say. Dre Greenlaw is pretty damn good player himself. Yeah, Jalen Graham, awesome. D Winners, awesome. Like, they're so deep. Oren Burks. I know the last guy, Raj, is not big on Demetrius Flanagan fouls. He, I think, and Raj will agree, he's probably just only signed for special teams. That's why they didn't go with Marcelino McCrary Ball. I know he was a big Larry Krueger guy last offseason, and I know I was talking him up like he's going to be the next great guy, and it didn't happen. Thoughts on the linebacker position?
Yeah, you nailed it. I like them all, but except DFF. Demetrius Flanagan Fowles is a fraud. He's best friends with Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw. That's why he makes the team. Just like Nick Sakel is a roommate with Brock Purdy. He is politics. He's a great special teamer, but so is Oren Burks. Marcelino McCrary Ball should have made this roster. And if you weren't going to keep him, and I get it, they can put him on practice squad, let him develop. I get that. Trade one of these. You have so much good linebackers. Trade them. You could get a 7th or 6th round pick for one of them.
Somebody said that there was talk that before that they released the rosters that there could be some trading with the linebackers to maybe get like a kicker, which we will address shortly. And then let's go to defensive line. And this is where things are a little weird. Eric Armstead, of course, he's been with the 49ers since he's drafted. Javon Hargrave, the big free agent presence that we got from Philly. Again, a no doubt player. Robert Beal. Some people didn't think Robert Beal would make the 53 and that he might be a practice squad guy. But I think, well, from what I saw, they said they were afraid that they might lose him, so they instead of trying to stash him on the practice squad, they didn't think he would get there. So he was he's made a 53. Kevin Givens, even though he had a kind of a dookie preseason game with Kinlaw, he made the roster. Clelin Ferrell, I thought he had a great preseason. Just he looked like the most natural edge rusher out there besides the rest of the, like if he's going to be playing across Bosa, he looked like he belongs just with his quick movements. He had some pressures. He had a sack in one of the games. Drake Jackson, I think he's going to be a depth guy. I know Raj probably agrees with that too. Hopefully he can do something to change the 49ers mind and maybe give him more reps this year. But he had an interesting, I think he got hurt. So he was a little dinged up during training camp. Right. And so that might've affected things. Kalia Davis, awesome. He spent all last season on the injured reserve list. He made the starting roster. And then a guy that I don't really like personally, and I don't really like his game either, is Javon Kinlaw. Everybody knows, especially 49er minded. But roster politics, I guess, with him, I don't really see, I guess you needed a defensive tackle pretty much. That's the way I look at it. I don't see any other reason why he's on this team other than maybe his draft placement too. What do you think of the defensive line?
So yeah, overall it's good, but it's not great. They need Nick Bosa to get extended. Obviously, that's the gaping hole, the big elephant in the room. Nick Bosa is not extended, so he's on a do not count. He basically doesn't count to the roster. He'll get there eventually. Well, they need to because this team's not winning a Super Bowl without Nick Bosa. The D-line looks good. Robert Beal, Kalia Davis, you add them because they have good potential. If you cut them, they'll probably get snagged up somewhere. Robert Beal didn't play a lot because of the injuries, but you don't want to cut him. Same thing with Kalia Davis. He's good enough to probably make a roster somewhere else. So you got to keep him. Kerry Hyder, Austin Bryant. They're not.
Yeah, those are the two guys.
Roster. They're not on the initial roster, but the plan is to bring them back. Maybe they put somebody else, like I said, maybe Ray or Danny Gray on short term. You can bring back those two guys because those two guys are solid. They need that depth on the D line because you're absolutely right. Javon Kinlaw, he made the roster. He really didn't have a strong preseason, but you already took an L with Trey. You don't want to swallow another L. You kind of need to make this look like it worked out. They're going to give Kinlaw another chance, to be a part of this roster, see if he can make some contributions. And the coaches like him. He's a guy that really, he comes to camp, he works hard, he looks great, but the problem is he can't stay healthy. And because of that, he doesn't develop. But the team loves him, so you're going to keep him around, and that's the problem for Kinlaw. I feel bad. He's never really got to develop because he's been injured, man. And when you're injured, you can't get your strength up. You can't get your, you can't figure out the leverage points and all that stuff if you're a D lineman. But hopefully Kerry Hyder and Austin Bryant are able to come back like they plan on it, according to Mayoko. The D-line, it's good. I wouldn't say it's the greatest D-line we have. I think everybody's like, oh, my God, this D-line looks so good. They need Nick Bosa. I'm not sold on Clelin Ferrell being a 10-sack type guy. I think he could be solid in the rotation. Chris Kasurk is going to make him look good and get paid. There's going to be a lot of pressure on Drake Jackson. We've talked about Drake Jackson a lot this offseason, Aaron. We've talked about him a lot, quite a bit. I just think there's a lot of pressure being put on this guy. Last year, they said he was out of shape. He could play 12 games. He's going to have to take a lot of snaps, man, and I don't know. I think with Hargrave, yes, it's going to help everybody, and that's the other key is Javon Hargrave. But until they get Nick Bosa, it's not a great defensive line. It's good. It's not great.
It's a solid defensive line, and Nick Bosa, he transforms this defensive line because his play affects everybody else.
Absolutely.
People play off of him and his greatness. The amount of attention that he gets will allow other guys to be singled up, like Hargrave. And I must say, like, I think Eric Armstead's going to have a really good year if Bosa is healthy. I think your interior defensive line, at least pass rush wise, is going to be good. To me, it's the other guy on the other end. We all wanted Yannick. That was never going to happen. We wanted Justin Houston. That didn't happen. Hell, I would have even taken a guy like Jadeveon Clowney, even though he's always hurt. That didn't happen. The Niners went the cheap route. They went Taco Charlton. He got hurt. So now they're pretty much back to where they were before they signed Taco Charlton. This defensive line, to me, it's almost an they went lateral like from last year's group, because last year's group wasn't really that impressive off other than Bosa, and this year's group, other than Hargrave and Bosa and Armstead, are pretty much just a bunch of guys, and that sucks. But hey, maybe some people get really good this year and step up, and Aaron will shut his mouth. I don't think Kinlaw will be one of them. I don't like his play. I don't like his personality. I think he talks too much for a guy that's done nothing. He really has a big, gigantic ego, which makes no sense. To me, if I was a player that was like not good, I would put a moratorium on my mouth and just not talk. I would just just like, yep, no, not talking, can't talk. I would, I literally would say nothing. He loves to run his yapper, talk about how he's a big dog and he's this and he's that and whatever, dude. People call me a hater, but it is what it is. Yeah, so that's the team really. We talked about everything. I wanted to kick it over to let's talk kicker. What the hell are we doing, man? You want to talk about you want to derail a season that has a really good roster? Have a kicker that can't make field goals or not have one at all, and have a punter that's having issues in the preseason as well. What the hell, man? What are we doing? Zane Gonzalez is going on IR. Are our starters hurt? Are we gonna sign Robbie Gould? Do you know anything with your sources?
No, I mean, you drafted Jake Moody. Okay, you traded for a kicker, and then you drafted a kicker. Both of them are hurt. You put one of them on injured reserve, and the kicker that you traded for, Zane Gonzalez, he was already had a history of injury. So I never got that signing. I get it. I think today everybody was saying, oh, well, look at all the kicker market. It's crazy. It's a frenzy. People are trading. I think the 49ers were hoping that, oh, we have 2 kickers now. We can trade one of them for a draft pick. And it came back to bite him in the ass because Zane Gonzalez is hurt. He was placed on the injured reserve. And now Jake Moody is hurt. They've tried out some kickers. They're going to hope and pray that Moody's healthy. But even still, he was rattled in the preseason. So is he going to come back, and is he going to be 100%? Maybe physically, but is he going to be 100% mentally? As far as Robbie Gould, they already burned that bridge. You already told him, okay, they have 3 strikes with Robbie because, okay, you said you're going to move on. You're not going to sign him. He says he wants to try the market. So it was kind of like both sides says, okay, we're going to part from each other. We get it. Okay. And then you went and committed to trading in for Zane Gonzalez. Okay, weird, like we talked about. But maybe down the line is we figured out you're going to trade him during kicker frenzy. And you at the same time, you drafted a kicker. So if I'm Robbie Gould, I'm looking at this and they drafted a kicker. They signed a kicker. They don't need me. They're saving money with all these moves because he wanted a lot of money. And then they get hurt. So you could have swallowed your pride and say, come back, Robbie, we'll pay you the money. But then you go and try out 2 mid-ass kickers for, that are probably not going to get paid a lot because you still got to figure out this Bosa situation. Robbie Gould's going to look at that and say, okay, you're trying out other kickers that are cheaper. I'm not going to come back to this. And if you're going to get Robbie Gould, Aaron, it's not going to be a rent-a-Robbie. It's not going to be 2 weeks. It's not going to be 3
1 year.
weeks. It's a year. You're expecting Jake Moody to come back. You just drafted this kid. You're not going to roster 2 kickers on your team. So you better pray and hope that Jake Moody could come back. So you can rent a Vizcaino. You can rent that guy, and maybe he has to kick for 2 weeks. But you're not renting Robbie Gould. He's not on the burner for like 2 weeks. You're going to give him a year contract. So that's where you're at, the kicker situation. You better pray Moody's healthy. If not, next week they're going to sign Vizcaino. That's it, bottom line.
Vizcaino, I forgot where he played. His name sounds familiar.
He played for the 49ers before. A couple teams.
What about going after a guy like
He played for the Patriots as well.
Okay. Why don't they go after a guy that played for the Packers all those years? I forget his name. Mason Crosby. He's out there.
But again, if you're getting a kicker, you're still banking that Jake Moody's back.
Right.
You're not. You could rent a cheap guy like Vizcaino for 2 weeks. He'll get a 2 weeks salary from you, and he'll get cut and go back to whatever grocery he's working at. A guy like Crosby, he probably would want a year contract.
Yeah, man. Listen, I'm not super high on our kicker, Moody. I'm not. Hey, I lost a lot of faith in him in the preseason when he's indoors with no pressure and he's shanking kicks. So
They
40.
froze him. They froze him.
Oh, you got to be better than that.
this
Welcome to
season.
sports. Like, dude, you played for Michigan. You played for a psychotic coach like Harbaugh, who literally spits and wears the same like outfit, khakis and a black sweatshirt. Like he literally, like if you open his closet, it would be like 300 pairs of this exact same outfit.
Right.
That'd be weird. Let's see what else we got here. Jimmy Garoppolo takes a shot at the 49ers. I know you guys in the comments might not have saw the video, but they asked him about the situation that was going on with Trey, and he made a comment about it being a weird, awkward situation. But then he pretty much said, "But that's hey, it's the Niners." He mentioned pretty much like he took a jab at him and then said, "I'd rather not say much." Kind of referring to his time and how they freaking they kind of pulled his chain, and then what they ended up doing to Trey. Kind of weird for a team that stuck with them through everything and re-signed him and gave him chance after chance for him to be kind of taking shots. What's that all about?
I mean, I'd be a little salty too. He said it was a mess of a situation. He says a weird situation, and he's right. It was. Let's be honest, man. They went and had this guy, whether you like Jimmy or not. You went and basically told him when you drafted Trey, we're moving away from you. When he was 2 years removed from a Super Bowl run with this roster, the players loved Jimmy, whether the fans did or not. They loved him. He was a classy guy, locker room leader. So you go in there, like we talked about with Trey, this really raw, green, 20-year-old young man, and I'm sure it was weird for Jimmy. I'm sure it was weird for Trey. It was weird. He said what he said, and it was true. And then the way it all played out, and then they got rid of Jimmy, and then they basically got rid of the guy that they were supposed to replace you with, and now he's not on the team. So yeah, it's honestly, Aaron, it is a mess.
It is a mess.
I think he kept it 100 because that's the best way to put it. He let the other guy speak, the guy that was interviewing him. So basically, he's like, "Those are your words, not mine." But that's a good way to put it. I like how Jimmy took the high road. He didn't want to say too because you could tell there was a lot of stuff he wanted to get off his chest, but he kept it classy. And I agree, it was a mess. I mean, look at what have we been arguing over the last 3-4 years? Quarterback for the 49ers. It's a weird situation.
And it's still a problem. And it's still dividing the fan base, just like it did when Garoppolo was here and Trey was waiting, and now listen, the great teams have an answer at quarterback. The teams that win the Super Bowl have answers at quarterback, and they're not just a bunch of also-rans. They're like legit top-flight quarterbacks. One of the biggest bones of contention that a lot of fans have is they don't think Brock Purdy is that top-flight guy, and they may be right.
But he knows how to run Kyle's system.
That's the thing. He runs Kyle's system so far to a T. Like he literally is Kyle on the field, and he has a little bit of an ego too. He likes to yell at guys, so he fits Kyle's MO. Like I said, you watch him and you just aren't impressed physically with him. You're like, I don't understand. He's gonna fall on his face. He's the other shoe's gonna drop, and then you watch him and you're just like, I don't get it. How is he so damn efficient with this little muzzle that he has? He has his little pea shooter for an arm, and yet he's accurate and he makes good decisions and he's quick and he's sneaky athletic too, which is something that I think people, including myself, forget sometimes. It just he can move it. He can get his way out of trouble a lot of times and make off-platform throws. I mean, they're not like huge throws down the field, but they're accurate mid-range throws. So, yeah, it was an awkward interview. I wish we weren't I don't want us to become the topic of a 30 for 30 in like 10 years about the team that
we will. It's going to be a great movie. It's going to be a great movie. Real quick, we got any more topics? I got to head out for my fantasy draft here.
Okay. No, that's pretty much it.
I got the number 1 pick, ladies and gentlemen, on this fantasy draft. I'm doing it with Wayne Breezy, John Chapman, Travis King, Cam Inman. We got a lot of.
Oh, you got all the all-stars.
I got the all-stars here. I got the number 1 pick. They're waiting for me in about 4 minutes. Number 1 pick. Should I go with Justin Jefferson or Christian McCaffrey?
I would go with Justin Jefferson just because he doesn't have the injury history than McCaffrey does, but that's just me.
We're going Justin Jefferson. Number one pick, fantasy football. We about to roll it. We getting it. We getting it.
All
baby.
right, everybody. We're going to get out of here. We're going to go let him do his thing. They said you're about to botch it. But everybody, thanks for coming in and being super supportive. Sorry I wasn't super active with the stream, but we're going to get out of here. We'll see you next Tuesday, hopefully at 10 p.m. Eastern. Take care, everybody. Have a great rest of your evening, and go Niners.